Will this Tigers offense ever figure it out? They're shut out for the second time this season. Follow the Texas Rangers. We talk about it next on this edition of a live Tigers postcast on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers postcast, part of Locked On Sports Detroit on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And a good evening or a not so good evening if you're a Detroit sports fan like me, not just the Tigers, but the Red Wings playing a pivotal game and nothing's going well. Welcome into this edition of the Locked On Tigers postcast. I am your host, Jake Riepma. You are Locked On Tigers, formerly with the flagship 97.1 The Ticket, now fired up to be the host of Locked On Tigers postcast. Thanks so much for joining me on this edition of Locked On Tigers postcast. And we got to talk about these Detroit Tigers who were shut out for the second time this season. And they waste a terrific outing by Reese Olson. We'll break it all down on this edition of our Locked On Tigers postcast. But first, I want to thank eBay Motors for making today's show possible. That's right, eBay Motors has you covered from brakes to exhaust, kits, and beyond. eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible terms, items only, exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. So, as we talk about today's 1-0 loss to the Texas Rangers, first of four with the defending World Series champs, we start and end with the offense. And if you want to accuse me of being overly negative, that's fine. But I had everything prepared to say yesterday after they were held scoreless for 7 innings against the Minnesota Twins. But because of the very fortunate 4-run, and I do say fortunate, 4-run rally in the 8th, we elected not to discuss that because they got the win and ultimately earned the series split with the Twins. But today's a new day, and all the problems for yesterday through 7 innings of baseball all came into fruition today against our old pal, Michael Lorenzen. And I know Michael Lorenzen was an all-star with the Tigers last year, but he was making his first career start with the Rangers, his Rangers debut, if you will. Obviously, he spent some time with the Phillies after the Tigers dealt him at the deadline and didn't make the Phillies postseason roster. I think that's worth pointing out. But once again, this Tigers lifeless offense made the opposing pitcher look like a Cy Young candidate, and Michael Lorenzen just isn't that. And this Tigers offense is so bad that whoever takes the mound for the opposition looks exactly like a Cy Young candidate. And it's April and it's early and it's the 16th game of the season, but I'm already at the point of gouging my eyes out watching this offense go up to the plate with zero plate approach. And we'll talk about some of the specifics here in a moment after I get the venting off my chest of how bad this offense is. And again, in the middle of April, I'm running out of ways to say just how bad this offense is top to bottom. And tonight it was the inability to take advantage of the pitcher's mistakes, or not even mistakes, but Lorenzen didn't have his best stuff. He had 5 walks. That's right. Not 1. I'm going to sound like LeBron here. Not 2, not 3, not 4, 5. 5 walks, and the Tigers couldn't even muster up a run from that. Later in the program, I'll have my studs and duds, so we'll continue to break down how bad this Tigers offense was tonight with the studs and duds. But 3 double plays, they left men on all night long, did not take advantage of the 5 walks, and top to bottom, you look at this lineup, and at some point you got to start asking guys, who's it going to be? Who's going to be the guy to take charge and say enough is enough? And this offense has to figure it out, have to have some semblance of a threat, or it's time to start calling guys up. And it's maybe it is time. I know Akil Baddoo, who, I know this is relatively a new venture for me, but if you know me, when I was on the ticket, I couldn't stand having to talk about Akil Baddoo. I don't think he's a very good Major League Baseball player or, maybe it is Chase Young. And I know he had another home run on Sunday for the Toledo Mud Hens. Maybe it's time to start calling guys up, because this ain't it. This ain't it. And you waste a performance that Reese Olson, and this entire pitching staff for that matter. The fact of the matter is, a 1-0 game, sure, they're going to happen, and maybe you like pitching duels, and I'm not going to complain about the quality of pitching that we saw tonight, because as a baseball fan, I like a good pitching duel. But when your team is constantly on the wrong side of low-scoring games and just they don't show up, and the only time they even muster any offense, this is a crazy stat, 26 of the Tigers' 56 total runs have come in the 8th inning or later. It shouldn't be that way. And also 56 runs at this point through 16 games. It's just, it's not good. And if you're watching on YouTube, let me know your thoughts and concerns as well, because I don't even know where to start or end with this offense. It is so bad. And when the Rangers, this had to be one of the most anticlimactic baseball games of all time, because it's not like the one run that the Rangers score was some towering home run or an extra base hit or a suicide squeeze or some kind of exciting play. No, it was an RBI fielder's choice with the bases loaded that Marcus Semien legged out, and I think it was Jonah Heim that was able to score. So this game just really didn't have anything besides awful hitting from the Tigers and really good pitching from Reese Olson. And I guess you got to give Michael Lorenzen a tip of the cap, going 5 scoreless. But again, the 5 walks, and when you look at his final line, it wasn't anything to write home about for Michael Lorenzen. I mean, 5 walks compared to 4 strikeouts. He did scatter 3 hits in 5 innings, but this is about the Tigers offense. And I said it the other day too, when your offense is this bad, it's such a problem that just trickles down to the entire roster, to the pitching staff, to the bullpen, to every single member sporting the Old English D tonight. When the offense can't do anything, so the opposition gets one measly single run, and the game's over. And that's what happened in the 5th inning. So let me know what you think down in the comments on our live edition of this Locked On Tigers postcast. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And don't forget to tune in to Locked On Tigers all week long. Had the chance to meet with Scott Bentley today, doing awesome things. And it's going to be a really fun partnership that we've got going here with him, with the detailed coverage day to day, your team every day, me hopping on these postcasts, usually at night or whenever the games conclude, giving you my instant reaction, my instant thoughts, and whether this team is the most boring team in baseball, or if they kind of figure it out and have late inning heroics like they have a couple of times, we're going to have you covered wall to wall, which will be a lot of fun. So some of my other notes that I wrote down for this Tigers offense: 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position after that Mark Canna double play in the bottom of the 5th. That was the 3rd double play of the night. At that point, they were 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. They finish 0 for 8. And again, could not take advantage of the 5 free passes. Not to mention, there in that bottom of the 8th, you had the double by Mark Canna and Spencer Torkelson reaching on that catcher's interference, which I got to give AJ Hinch some credit, or whoever it was in the dugout that saw the catcher's interference that elected to challenge that play that ultimately allowed Spencer Torkelson to take his base on the catcher interference. So observant managing there by the Tiger staff led by AJ Hinch. That was one of the few positives. But again, it doesn't matter because you can't turn it into anything, and you're still the worst offense in the history of Major League Baseball, and you lose 1-0. So, I mean, without the Tigers having runs given to them and again, in the game on Sunday against the Minnesota Twins, they weren't technically ruled errors, but there was, in that 8th inning where they scored 4 runs, there were 2 ground balls that should have been fielded. And if those plays are made, then they probably don't score the 4 runs in the 8th inning on Sunday either. So my heart's beating. I'm going, what does Michael Scott say? I'm a million miles per hour. That's what I feel like right now with how this Tigers team performed, or the offense's lack thereof performance. They just didn't show up tonight in the opener of the 4-game series against the Texas Rangers. But we are going to talk some positives. That's right. There was some positives to take away from tonight. We'll talk about that next on Locked On Tigers Postcast. All right, today's show is made possible by eBay Motors. That's right. With eBay Motors, proud sponsor of today's show, eBay Motors' passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, the Tigers offense isn't into any of those things. eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride. Kind of like the Tigers were guaranteed to get out with runners in scoring position tonight. Every time you get your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. Today's show also made possible by Monopoly Go. All right. You hear it in my voice. I'm a competitive person. And when the Tigers lose, I get very, very angry. I also get angry if I lose in Monopoly Go because of my competitive side. We all got that competitive side, right? This side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. And it's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part, messing with your friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like the classic Monopoly, but now I can also rob their vaults and riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is, but it's not just my competitive side that loves it. It's everything about me. You can team up with your friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. One of the positives, I'll say the only positive, my apology, because that would be giving this Tigers team too much credit. But Reese Olson, have a day kid, and I do mean kid because he looks 15 years old. But the Tigers starter, Reese Olson, was one of the few things to be excited about tonight, because if he pitches like this on a consistent basis, we're looking at a player in the rotation that you can really count on, a dependable starting pitcher in the rotation. He gets the tough luck loss tonight. He's 0-1, but he went 6 1/3, allowed 6 hits, just the 1 earned run. But when you have an offense as bad as the Tigers, you just have to be completely perfect in order to give yourself a chance to win the game. But he struck out 8 batters. And entering tonight, he had 6 Ks in his previous 2 starts. He struck out 6 of the first 7 batters he faced. And the Rangers broadcast described his changeup as absolutely intimidating. And it was a performance by Reese Olson that gets you really, really excited about what this kid can do for your rotation. And again, broken record, and I apologize for that. But the strength of this team, the starting pitching, and the bullpen. And tonight, we saw that on full display. Starting pitching was good. Bullpen continued their streak, scoreless innings, so on and so forth. On the defensive side of things, this team looked at least like the team that we're hoping they can be. They looked competitive. They made some great plays. And despite some of the shortcomings at the plate, I thought, even Javi Baez had a nice play there. I'm looking at some of my notes here. Riley Green, obviously the outfield assist, which was really impressive. Actually, interesting note from Jason Beck on Twitter, who covers the Tigers for MLB.com. That was the first outfield assist to home plate for Riley Green in his career, but that helped keep it a 1-0 game. And, if the Tigers get down 2-0, then we might as well just end the game right there. At least 1-0, they could somehow get lucky and maybe do this crazy thing called hitting a home run and tie the game up, but we knew that didn't happen either. However, the fact of the matter is, Reese Olson, really impressive start on the mound, and the way he kept that Rangers lineup off balance, especially in the early going, they had no answer for what Reese Olson did on the bump. And a big reason why the Tigers even had a chance in this game was the starting pitching performance from Reese Olson. The defense behind him was really, really good. And if you're a pitcher, I can't speak for them, but it's got to be impactful on just the headspace that you're in right now as far as what you have to do on any given night as a starting pitcher for the Detroit Tigers. All you got to do is just go out and be perfect. You can't give up a single run because then you'll lose. And Reese Olson found that out the hard way tonight. Also thought the bullpen did a nice job. You had Tyler Holton come on and finish out that seventh inning for Reese Olson, and then Faedo 2 innings of scoreless ball. He just gave up the 1 hit. So the pitching staff, I'm not going to yell and scream and bang the table. Of course not, because they were really, really good once again tonight. And that makes it equally as frustrating because when you give up 1 run in 9 innings, you should win the baseball game. It's that simple. Win the baseball game when you give up 1 run, and the Tigers' bats were so dead. Everything was so dead offensively that just wasn't the case. And it was another missed opportunity to start stockpiling some of these wins. And we talked about it a little bit with Minnesota, where they're a little bit beat up right now. And the same could be said about the Rangers, missing a lot of key guys. And their chance to take advantage and start the series on the right foot was there for the taking if you could somehow find a way to maybe, I don't know, get a hit with a runner in scoring position. Again, 0 for 8 tonight, but I'm going to sound like a broken record continuing to go through with that. Some of the notes I made about Reese Olson was that he just looked comfortable. He looked in control. He looked like he was dotting the corners. The slider was really good. The off-speed stuff was really good. I mentioned the changeup and the fact that the defense picked him up behind him at times when he needed it. You really had that complementary part of the pitching and the defense working together. It's just a shame that the offense was as bad as they were. So I'm encouraged for this Tigers defense, the pitching staff, the bullpen, however you want to slice it. Right now, I think it is as simple as this offense sucks. The rest of the team does not. And as the season continues to progress, it'll be interesting to see how AJ Hinch and company try to combat this lifeless offense. Because, and I hate to keep going back to this, but Carlos Pena talked about the plate approach. And I look at when you've got Matt Vierling up there in, what was that? Bear with me here. Yeah, that was when Matt Vierling grounded into the double play in the bottom of the 4th. The first 2 batters reached by way of a walk. You got 2 men on with back-to-back walks to start the inning, and Matt Vierling just swings at the first pitch. There's got to be more of a sense of awareness as a hitter in an approach at the plate. If you and I know, hey, he's just walked 2 batters, what are you doing swinging at the first pitch? I don't know, maybe see a couple. How does Matt Vierling not know that? Who is responsible for helping the plate approach for these Tigers hitters? Because something's got to give, or we're going to be doing this every single night. And I feel bad. I'm sick of myself saying it already. And it's, again, the middle of April, and this is what the 5th show. So bear with me, but we're not just going to continue to harp on the Tigers offense or lack thereof. Sincere tip of the cap to Reese Olson. His best start of the season for the Tigers, probably the best start by any Tigers starter this entire season. So Reese Olson was good. The Tigers offense was not. We'll tie a bow on it with studs and duds. But first, I want to tell you about one of our presenting sponsors that help make Locked On Tigers possible. But before we go any further with that, a word. All right, it is Locked On's NFL Mock Draft live on April 17th at 7 o'clock Eastern, streaming on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on April 17th at 7 o'clock Eastern to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft on April 17th at 7 o'clock Eastern, streaming live on Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Also fired up to tell you about Yahoo Finance. That's right. Yahoo Finance is a proud sponsor of today's Locked On Tigers postcast. And let's get straight to the point. You want to grow your portfolio to deal with the rising costs of inflation. You want to pay off your debt or your mortgage, pretty much anything standing in the way of you and financial freedom, right? Of course. And with Yahoo Finance, you can get access to the news, data, and tools that you need in order to help you reach that financial freedom that we're all striving for. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. So whether you're a seasoned investor or looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. You don't have to have 25 tabs open. It's all right there for you in one place. That's why they're the number one finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. So for a comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. We close it out with studs and duds. And this is one that won't take very long because the duds of the evening is just the entire Tigers offense. And I hate to pick on one guy over the other, but Matt Vierling's inability to have a plate approach in a spot in the fourth inning, grounding into that double play after the first two men reached by way of free passes, 2 of 5 free passes that Michael Lorenzen surrendered the entire evening, and not being able to take advantage of that. Let's go ahead and make him our dud. But again, it's collectively, it's 1 through 9. It is the leadoff to the cleanup, whatever part in the order you want to point to. It's all bad right now, and it all needs to change. It all needs to get better. Otherwise, this baseball team is staring down the barrel of another lackluster season. No other way to put it, because the key, this is just breaking news here that I'm about to blow everyone's mind with, but you got to score some runs to win some baseball games. And hard not to get as frustrated than I am right now with the continued pattern of the inability to produce major league at-bats from this entire Tigers offense. So you look at the box score, you go up and down, and you just see a lot of zeros under the hits for tonight. Riley Green was hitless. Spencer Torkelson, and I do want to give Tork some credit. He had a couple of walks that showed some discipline at the plate. We know how much he struck out this season, but for him to get on base 3 times tonight, he doesn't deserve as much of the blame. Kerry Carpenter grounded into a double play. Matt Vierling grounded into a double play. Mark Hanna grounded into a double play. Colt Keith, another 0 for 4 night. Gio Urshela, he had 1 hit. Javi Baez had 1 hit. My favorite player. You guys know I love Javi Baez. And I would say from the catching position, Carson Kelly just obviously doesn't bring a lot to the table. Hitting just 206 this season with an on-base percentage at 250, slugging percentage at 324, and Jake Rogers hasn't really been much better. The catching position is kind of a hole in this offense, but that speaks for just about everybody as far as holes in this offense. Name a position and something's got to change. So I'm sorry for the broken record. It seems like, the CD is just spinning around and saying the same thing over and over. But when you lose 1-0, it's the second time they've been shut out this season. Let me check my notes. Oh, yeah, 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position, 8 men left on base. You can't take advantage of 5 free passes. That becomes the story. Studs, well, Reese Olson had an awesome outing. And I read his line. I will one more time. 6 1/3, 6 hits, 1 earned run, striking out 8, and walked just 1. So Reese Olson was our stud tonight. And you know what? Why not? I'll say Michael Lorenzen was a stud too. His first game, I think if you tell him, hey, your first game off the injured list, new team, I'll be in a ballpark you're pretty familiar with. But if you say, hey, you're going to go out and throw 5 innings of scoreless baseball, give up just 3 hits and strike out 4, he would probably sign up for that. So Rangers get the win. They're now 9-8. Tigers 9-7. They'll play 3 more to wrap up the 4-game series at Comerica Park. They're all going to be day games, so make sure you join us for our Locked On Tigers postcast. It'll be day games, so we'll be on immediately following the action. And it's always a pleasure to be on the airwaves. And I mentioned earlier in the program, had a little Locked On Tigers a virtual get together, obviously powwow, let's call it, but had the chance to connect with Scott Bentley. He's doing great things and has been on Locked On Tigers, Locked On Red Wings as well for that matter, but awesome to have the support of the Locked On community for these Locked On Tigers postcasts. And all we need now is for the Tigers bats to wake up. The Tigers bats have to wake up. I also said, in the interest of getting to know me, I'll do one little fun fact about myself. And so that way you have a better idea of somebody that just doesn't scream about how bad the Tigers offense is. But I said I was with 97 Won the Ticket. Last time I said I did my graduate school at Northwestern University. I played football at Northwood University. For my undergraduate, I was a really, really slow white safety. So you can tell how much value I brought to the football team in that matter. But shout out to all my Northwood Timberwolves. Appreciate you guys tuning in. And as always, Locked On Tigers postcast, your first listen every single day. We'll continue to provide wall-to-wall coverage on the Detroit Tigers, even if the offense is this bad. We got you covered, no worries. Make sure you do me a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Real easy, doesn't cost you anything, takes 2 seconds, helps us out a lot. And if you're feeling even more generous, maybe even like the video, share it, send it to a Tigers fan, say, hey, I got this guy that just screams about how bad the Tigers offense is. You'll love it. Check it out. We're also on the audio-only version of the broadcast, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you know the deal. So thanks so much for tuning in. Tigers drop the opener 1-0 to the Texas Rangers. Interesting note here. It's the first 1-0 win for the Texas Rangers since April 18th, 2021. So nearly 4 years ago to the day. The Tigers will come back tomorrow with Casey Mize on the bump for Detroit and try to get back into the series. I mentioned they're all day games. And for the Texas Rangers, it'll be John Gray on the bump. So less than a 24-hour break, because hopefully we will be back with you for another edition of Locked On Tigers postcast following the conclusion of tomorrow's day game at Comerica Park. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Jake Riepma, and we'll see you next time on Locked On Tigers postcast.